Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. Well, after last week, such an exciting time with the voting and stuff like that, and it's opened my eyes. It really has. There's big change coming. People are voting differently. We've got a lot to say tonight about certain victories and areas where they're going. And linked to this is they've been going on about flags that people would know about. And I tell you, the mighty Paul Rimmer's got something to say about flags. I tell you, he was the one who was first protesting it. But yeah, so big things to go on. Right, I'll start the show off. I'm going to leave it to Paul while I'll do some sharing. But here we go. Please like and subscribe to the channel. All our information's there. We've got an email there. And there is our PayPal link for any donations. Please send some donations in. We're an active party. We've got several candidates over the next few years running in local elections. Promising candidates as well. Besides myself, we've got several in the London area. We're going to have a candidate in the Wirral. Across the country. Bedfordshire, we've got a candidate in Bedfordshire. We just run one in Rugby then this year, but we've got a lot coming. So please donate to us, worth every penny. Every penny. We're working on a new leaflet at the moment, a new recruitment leaflet, but there we go. But last week's elections, unbelievable. It's looked like Reform and proper swept the board out of how many thousand and odd councils. It got 677. When you look at it, they have took a lot of the Tory vote, but the Labour vote is down in certain areas and certain elections as well. So it goes to show that people are voting different. There's been some games by the Liberal Democrats and Greens here and there, just here and there, but nothing specific. But Reform absolutely ran the race last week and they won. Paul?
Let's just say, John, this was a nuclear bomb exploding on British politics. It will never be the same again. The old school has been flattened. The Tories were defending almost 1,000 seats and they ended up with 300. What a collapse. Incredible collapse in support for the Conservatives. Their leader, Kemi Badenoch, it's an insult to the British people. She's a Nigerian girl. She was born here. People say she was an anchor baby, but I think her mother just came over here to get a free delivery on the NHS. Then she went back to Nigeria, and she's a Nigerian girl. She came back to Britain when she was 16. And then she managed to wheel her way into the Conservative Party. She was put on Cameron's A-list, and she became an MP, over-promoted to be an MP. A maiden speech, she spoke of her purpose to enable more Nigerians to come to Britain and study and live in Britain. She was going to be an advocate for Nigerians. And you think, well, hang on, this is the British Parliament. She's here to represent the British people. We have needs. We pay taxes. It's our Parliament. And so she's now the leader of the Conservative Party, a Nigerian woman trying to speak as if she represents the British. She doesn't represent us. She's got no interest in us at all. She's a globalist. She hasn't got one drop of British blood in her veins. Just like Rishi Sunak, he was an Indian. They're appointing people who they've got no claim to be British. So what are the Conservatives up to? They're a globalist party now.
Just interrupt. Let's just get Russell up. Good evening, Russell.
Hiya, how you doing? All right.
Good evening, yeah. Paul's just started off. Continue, Paul.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the leadership of the Tory party. They've gone from an Indian to a Nigerian. They're mocking the British people. They're out and out globalists. They don't care about us. They would sell us out at a drop of a hat, and that's what they've done. They opened the border when they were in power, and they flooded this country with an unprecedented number of third world immigrants. This was the great replacement via the Tories. Labour have come in and made it, hyping it up even further. We are being replaced, displaced, pushed to the side, marginalised, ignored in our own country. Even today, Keir Starmer has made an agreement with India to fast-track Indian graduates to come and work in Britain. I mean, they don't represent us. They're not interested in us. They're mocking us. And this vote for reform was a total rebellion against that. Now, I live in Liverpool. It's been a safe Labour seat now since Harold Wilson. And we saw that in Runcorn. Runcorn has been a Labour seat since Harold Wilson in 1964. They lost it. And they've lost the people of Liverpool, Labour. The people of Liverpool hate Keir Starmer. Everybody hates him. Not only for taking the winter fuel allowance off the pensioners, but the £1 million he saved by depriving the pensioners, he then bunged Zelensky $2 billion. He was mocking the British people. He's stolen. He's going to steal 500 million at least off the farmers. The theft tax. And he's already said he's going to give foreign farmers nearly £1 billion to fight climate change. So he's stealing off British farmers and destroying our farming industry and just giving it away. He's mocking the British farmers. He's mocking us. He's making a joke of us. And then he talks about this 20 billion black hole in the finances. And that's the reason why he's raised national insurance. He's kept the tax thresholds low. He's forcing people to pay a lot more tax. And then he announces he's going to spend 22 billion on net zero carbon capture, which is absolute nonsense. Again, he's mocking the British people. These people who are ruling over us, the Lib Lab Con, are just jokers. They're taking the mickey out of the British people, and the British people have had enough. They're not listening to the mass media anymore. They're not listening to the broadcasters. They're listening to voices like us. They're listening to reform. They're listening to voices on the internet. They want change. And this is the point now. That seismic vote, where Reform won 677 seats, Labour lost Runcorn. They lose Runcorn, they can lose anywhere. That's a heartland seat for Labour. I was speaking to Welsh lads over the weekend. It's the Welsh Assembly elections next year. They're going to vote Reform. They want Labour out. Labour are going to collapse in Wales. They're going to collapse in Scotland, even in Scotland. So there's no refuge for Labour now. The whole British people have turned against them because we're just sick of it, this nonsense. And so it opens up politics in this country for new voices. Reform they're gonna be massive. They're gonna have they're foot in now in 2028, 2029. What can they do to stop reform? The Labour Party, nothing. They can do a dirty tricks campaign. They can try and assassinate Farage, I suppose, but it's too late. It's not a juggernaut that we saw on Thursday. That was like a 1,000-bomber raid, which were dropping nuclear bombs on the British political system. The Lib Lab Con is finished. It's no more. The British people have total disrespect for it. The Lib Dems scooped up a few Labour votes because some of the Labour votes will go to the left, but a heck of a lot will also go to Reform. So Labour are leaking votes. The Tories are in a state of total collapse. I think after next year's elections, the Tory party will be over forever. It will never resurrect itself. It will become, a lot of Tories, right-wing Tories, will go over to Reform. A lot of Tories will just simply go over to Reform, but the voters will go to Reform. So everything is changing now. Everything's fluid. And the British people will not accept what's happening to them. This abuse that we've seen of Starmer, the pensioners, the farmers, the extra taxes, and it's going to get worse. We talk about housing. He's opening the immigration floodgates like never before. We haven't got the housing. So he's building new housing, and then we're told that 5 of the 7 new units will go to immigrants. The British people are being mocked by these idiots in charge, and we've got to rebel against it. And Reform has led the rebellion, and we've got to be part of that. We've got to go alongside that and encourage the rebellion and make sure that we get the Lib Lab Con out and politics changes forever in this country. John?
I need to interject there. As we know, the Reform Party, Reform UK, do not support the same views as we do on immigration. They support net zero without any kind of specification as to who can come in. They support so it can be one Nigerian going in and one English person going out. What's your stance on that?
Reform are a protest vote. They've never held power. We don't know what they're going to do in power. But you see, the thing is, even if they win the next election, will they win an absolute majority? We're going to have to wait and see. They'll face resistance from the state. The civil service won't process what they want to do. They'll try and block them at every turn. It's going to be like a Trump-like revolution. Reform don't need policies. All they need to say is this: we are not the Lib Lab Con, and we're going to break up the political status quo in Britain. And that's step one. That's step one of saving this nation.
Yeah,
Going beyond that, we've got to be an input of policies. We've got to be an encourager and a constructive criticizer. We've got to say, this is what we need to do. We need to assert what we would do if we had power. We don't have to criticise Reform because Reform don't have power. They're just a protest vote, but they're doing it brilliantly. But we have to have the policies in place. It's up to us to produce the right policies.
It won't be a Trump type of administration because Farage just doesn't have that kind of strength to him. Also, you could find that the Labour Party and the Conservatives might do what they call a cordon sanitaire and ally together in government for the first time ever since 1945 or since 1939, actually, in a national coalition to keep out Farage anyway.
I think the Tories are going to face some wipeout. I think after next year's elections, local elections, Scotland and Wales, the Tories are facing total wipeout, obliteration. And I don't think Labour are far behind. Labour have got that block. They've got the public sector unions, they've got the immigrants, they've got the liberal professionals, they've got this vote to block. The Tories haven't got any heartlands anymore. This vote was taken in the Tory heartlands, and it just disappeared. Kent is the main foundation of Tory rule in this country. They got 2 councillors in Kent. Reform swept the board. Durham is the foundation of Labour power in Britain. Reform swept the board. Labour was swept out of Durham. You've got to understand the British people are just sick and tired. They will not vote for the establishment now. They kept up this illusion that somehow the establishment can do what they want to the British people, but the British people have had enough. It really is. I've been speaking to a lot of people over the weekend in the pub, and I'm amazed how radical people have become. I'm just speaking to a mixed race guy, and he just said our area's been swamped by Muslims. He said, why we can't even get houses. This is our area, Toxteth. We can't even get houses here. Everyone's disgusted with what's going on. You see, everything's got very tight now. So people need a bit of support, and they're not getting it. And they're seeing who's getting it. They're seeing their communities being transformed through mass immigration. And it's really disturbing everybody. Everyone's pushing the panic button now. And so the politics, it's a meltdown. It's the old certainties have gone, completely gone now. And that will become obvious over the next year. Pat.
Go on, John, you're next, mate.
Can't hear you.
You're on mute, John.
Come on, John. Come on. Got Russell White there joining us tonight, and Pat's jumped in as well. Welcome to the chat, everyone in the chat. The way I look at it is that reform in voting is coming. And when we started the party up, me and Pat, we said these kind of things are going to happen. People are going to vote differently. There's going to be other parties that are going to come in. There's going to be a big political shift. And there has been. There's more independents running. There's more local small parties like ours running across the country, taking local council seats. Reform are a vehicle that's to be used to get to break up the establishment. They're already started on things like flags and stuff like that, and and putting pressure on councils, which we need to start doing, and we all need to start doing it. If I had several councillors, I'd be doing the same thing in Oldham, putting pressure on the council to adopt our policies, things within our party and stuff like that. And this is how we do it, by this change in voting. And there has been a big change in voting. People are just voting differently. There's so many parties out there. In the north of Manchester, we've got Angela Rayner, Deborah Abrams, Jim McMahon. One of them are losing the seat by the next general election. There's going to be big change across the country. Now, you know, whatever, Reform have got many faults. So have a lot of other parties. But this is what we need to push the overall census to get things changed. We have a couple of policies. We'd like people to be fined if they don't vote, like they have in Australia, because there's a big gap in how many people vote, you know, and a lot of things can change if people vote, but they just don't understand that. And, you know, we want reform. We want everyone to be heard at hustings and stuff like that. That's what we want. We want every candidate, no matter what, independent or whatever, to be heard at hustings. At the moment, it's just what they want, and that's it. And it's not against any particular group. They do it against any minor candidate or anything like that. So we want these things changing. And obviously, there's been a lot of shouts for proportional representation. And these are the kind of fundamental things we need to change within government to get be heard more. So that's my stance on it. But anyway, let's get on to Pat. Pat, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Thought you were going to be late, but here we are.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to be late, but I ended up going canvassing an hour early because I knocked on a door the other week, and this old lady and her daughter kindly invited me into their house. The daughter was effing and blinding about Labour and Conservative, and the mum, she had all these visitors parking permits, which I can't get hold of anymore. In Camden now, if you're elderly, you'll be able to get paper visitors parking permits, but if you're younger, they will only let you do it online. And if I do mine online for my vehicle, it's like £2 an hour. It's very expensive. Anyway, cut long story short, she gave me all these parking permits, and some of them were 2 hours. And what I usually do is when I go canvassing, I put an hour on at 5:30 to 6:30. That's when the parking ends and you can get free parking. But anyway, cut long story short, I've just got back from canvassing early. But let's get back to reform. So I'm going to come back to my canvassing in a minute. I'm very, very disappointed that reform have basically taken over this protest vote, because they are so weak and politically correct, pro-immigration, pro-refugee. They want to stay in NATO. They're a globalist elite party. There's no two ways about it. Someone mentioned the other day that parties like AFD and National Rally, the equivalent to the Labour and Conservative parties, they will not deal with them whatsoever. They will not join with them on votes, etc. Whereas Reform, they're already doing deals with the Tories. What I predict is what's going to happen with Reform. They're going to probably end up taking power, and yes, Nigel Farage will probably be Prime Minister. However, it's going to be exactly the same outcome as what we had with Boris. So many people voted for Boris thinking that they're going to sort immigration out, they're going to stop the boats, and nothing happened. And this is exactly what's going to happen with Reform. And, you know, just on the refugee crisis thing, small boats crisis, whatever you want to call it, Farage made a massive speech before the election, and he said they're going to completely stop allowing people to claim asylum if they come across on small boats across the channel. But we're going to take asylum seekers and refugees through the proper channels. So he's going to take proper channel refugees from, let's say, Iran, right? Anyone from Iran can easily claim asylum in this country under the current laws, which we campaign to remove. Reform don't. So Nigel's happy to take these people in as refugees, especially if they're dissidents, because our establishment's against the Iranian regime. They will take them in as refugees, right? If they are genuinely in danger of losing their lives. But he's saying if a load of Iranians come across the channel on a dinghy, they're not going to be allowed to claim asylum. So what are they going to do with them? They're not going to send them back to Iran because they know they're going to be executed. What are they going to do? It's an absolute joke that people are being led down the garden path with all this crap, and also about the immigration. The Tories tried to reduce immigration for 14 years. Reform are going to be no different. It's going to be no different at all because they're tied up to all the corporations. They're tied up to globalism. They're tied up to the bankers. And all their friends have got foreign friends who want British passports. You cannot control it. When are they going to learn we cannot control permanent settlement immigration? Right? It needs to be completely stopped. Right? That's the only solution. Reform won't do it. So, Labour and Conservative were going to collapse anyway, even if reform didn't exist. And then it would have been a lot better because a lot of the smaller parties, like the Populist Party, the National Housing Party, would have room to grow, etc. But reform are going to completely block any genuine party to break through to save this nation. I mean, they're two high-profile candidates who won in the elections are ex-Tories, pro-refugee ex-Tories. So what's new about it? It's going to be all the ex-Tories going to reform. They're going to say to them, we'll let you have this seat. Because why are they going to leave the Tories if they got a chance of being an MP or they are an MP in the Tory party? Reform are going to say, come to us, we'll put you in a safe seat. And all the new MPs are going to be all the ex-Tories who have destroyed this country for the last 14 years. So that's my opinion on, their cancel culture. There's not much I like about them, to be honest. The flag thing, will they just say Israel gets attacked tomorrow really badly and everyone wants to put Israeli flags up? Are you telling me they're going to say no Israeli flags on government buildings? I don't think so. So it's all pretty the same situation we was in 2019. A lot of people were naive and they went for Boris. I didn't. I'm proud to say I campaigned against the Tories in the general election in Hornchurch and Upminster parliamentary election for the BNP because I knew they're all establishment, Farage included, and they are not the solution.
100% agree with that. 100%.
Right. Before we get
let me give
Russell, before we get to Russell, please like and subscribe the channel, everyone. Kent Patriot, good evening. EW, good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. GA209197. Lovely name. I never voted for Boris. I hated the Tories since 2017. It was their fault that Salman Abedi's family were here, and it's their fault for that Manchester Arena bombing, and I was adamant, and I never voted for him. He doesn't make a good prime minister. They totally failed. I agree with everything more or less Pat's saying, but like I said, this is a change we need in politics. People really need to wake up and start voting differently, and they are doing. We predicted this a few years ago. Pat predicted this when he approached me about the party. We knew what was going to happen. We predicted all this with reform and stuff like that. We predicted it. But that's what I want to say. But let's get to Russell. Let's give Russell some time. Russell, tell us about the election. What do you think? Do you agree with this? Go on.
Yes, well, I think that what we've got at the moment is a situation where people are going to be voting for reform regardless of what is the policy of reform at the time. Pat's quite right, 100%. What we need to do is to, as parties, is to point out where we differ from reform rather than chasing their coattails. We need to talk about our position on NATO. We need to talk about position, well, certainly from the populist point of view, for talk about position on nationalisation of the utilities and capping prices, which is something that the Reform Party will never do because of their Thatcherite, shall I say? Sorry, Thatcherite roots. So that's one thing I think we need to do. Also, if you look at where the party is doing well, it's in the places where we ought to be doing well, white working class areas by and large, and in the lower middle class and the upper middle class or whatever in southwest England, they're not doing so well, and they're not doing so well in Liverpool, really. I can't see. Yes, they did win Runcorn, but if you go to electoral calculus and have a look and see which seats they are not going to win, it's the inner city seats, and that's a lot of those are like Bootle, Knowsley, and of course Liverpool proper, but also Birkenhead, Wirral. These are all areas where we can go and target, because I don't think there's a cat's hell chance in hell of Reform doing well there, because of the perception that it is very much a Tory party. As Pat was saying, a lot of their people are going to be Tories. If you look at a by-election, it's always done on a smaller poll than a general election. Fewer people turn out. So a lot of people, the reason Sarah Poaching won was, yes, it was discontent with what's going on, but also there's a situation where if the vote goes up again, and she might not hold that. She only won it by six votes. You look at the local elections, brilliant results for the Reform Party, 8 councils, but look at the poll. Look at the turnout. It's much lower in a local election than in a national election. That's my view on that. So we can. That's what I'm saying is we can as parties. We can find the parts that they refresh the parts that Reform cannot reach. So we've got to look at where they didn't win, and where we do our leafleting is where they didn't win, not where they did win, because otherwise we're on a hiding to nothing. Any comments?
Yeah, first of all, Reform are a unique party because they've got cross-class appeal. I mean, they won, I said initially, they won in Durham, which is ex-mining territory, solid Labour. They swept the board in Durham. They swept Labour away. And they won in Kent. Kent is the Tory heartland. They won in the Labour heartland, and they won in the Tory heartland because they are a protest vote. Now, I can tell you in Liverpool, amongst ordinary people I know who normally vote Labour, there is a passion for Reform, because and during the general election, Reform had local characters as candidates, so they finished second in a lot of seats in Liverpool. I think I don't think Labour are so disliked now that the number 2, the Reform, has got a great chance of taking seats in Liverpool. And this will be a revolution. This is political revolution. As I say, if Reform can win in Runcorn, they can win anywhere. Because Runcorn's the 16th safest seat. It's the heartland of Labour. They've held it for 60 years. I mean, that's an incredible defeat. Now, as for policies don't matter. The Reformers never held power, and we don't know what they do in power. Now, they are really on the coattails of Trump populism. See, the thing with Boris Johnson was he wasn't a Trump populist. And of course, Biden was the president, and he just linked up with the Democrats. The Tory party effectively become an arm of the Democrat Party, whereas Farage, you see, the first Reform Party was Ross Perot in America, and Trump was a part of that. It's not a Republican Party. It's not a Conservative Party. It's a populist party. It's a people's party. And therefore, its policies will have to reflect the will of the people. And they will. They'll change. You know, what they'll do, they'll come across the deep state, just like Trump comes across the deep state. And they're going to have to go into battle with it. Now, politics is about networks. It's about parties. The Conservatives and Labour and the Lib Dems, to a degree, are linked with the executive in this country. They're linked with the civil service. They're linked with the corporations. They're linked with all the major sort of institutions such as education and health and so on. It's all a pat on the back, boys, look after each other club. Reform are not part of that. And the key factor why they're not is because Reform are a Brexit party. You see, all these institutions, the corporations and the civil service, they're all geared now to get us back into the EU. The EU is going to become a big issue again. Reform are totally hostile to the EU, and therefore they reach out to Trump in America. That means they're not part of this network. They're not. The network. The network hate Farage because of Brexit. You see, the EU is their golden calf, which they worship, and he took that down. Go on, Russell.
Did you know that when asked about whether he was a populist or not, Farage emphatically denied it? There's an interview.
The thing about Farage, right?
Why would you do that, though?
Well, I'll tell you why, actually, because we don't have a MAGA army yet in Britain. We don't have the populist base that Trump had. Britain has been totally controlled and totally subverted by the globalist elite, like Australia, like Canada. That's why Canada's voted in the Liberal. That's why Australia's just voted in the Labour Party. They have total control of their societies. And to a degree, they have the same here. So Farage has to play a totally different game. He can't allow the elite to box him in as a sort of a xenophobic nationalist, the words they throw at him. So he's got to play a different game, and he plays it unbelievably well. That's why he wins national elections. UKIP won national elections. He won the Brexit vote, and now he's just wiped the floor with the Tories and Labour. They absolutely dread him, and they fear him, and they want to get rid of him. They'll do whatever. Now, the dirty tricks start now. Now, we don't know how far they'll go to stop him. But how far can they go? Because Trump's in power. But, I mean, we've seen what's happened in Germany where the AfD have been made illegal. You see, Pat has said that there's no firewall in this country because we got Brexit. You see, in Germany, the firewall is to leave the EU. You've got to realise the EU is crucial to all their agendas, to globalism. Farage is anti-EU.
Yeah, I don't think AfD or National Rally are campaigning to leave the EU. Both of them are not.
Well, the AfD said they may. But the thing is, though, it's not an issue in those countries. It's an issue here. That's the real firewall here. Where do you stand on the EU? Starmer is going to try and get us back into the EU now. Starmer said he's going to go faster and harder. He's going to push every agenda, mass immigration, the replacement, the great replacement, back in the EU, globalism, selling, he's going to push all them now. He's going to accelerate them. Now, Farage has got to play a cagey game, and he plays it. The thing is, he's a winner, and he's just won the greatest political victory I think I've ever seen in this country. To come from 0 to 677 seats, it's unbelievable, and he is an incredibly popular figure. And what was Rupert Lowe all about, really? Was Rupert Lowe a plant to throw him off, to throw a spike in the wheel? I think Rupert Lowe is a very suspicious character because during an election, he tried to scupper their campaign. This is the deep state operate. It's very sinister the way they operate. It's always subversive. It's always underhand. They will plant people in Reform now to cause trouble. Of course they will. They'll plant people in Reform to create a civil war. They did it in the BNP. Anyone who's a threat to them, they'll plant people. And this is what's going to happen now. So the thing is with Farage, he's been very clever in that he's got a lot of control of this party and it can't be usurped. And, there's no other party to the right of Farage. I mean, we're only micro parties. I'm talking about realistic challenges,
Or what you're saying effectively is that if you're saying Rupert Lowe was a plant to destabilise the Reform UK, that to me, that's like saying Enoch Powell was a plant to destabilise the Conservative Party in 1968, because that's the equivalent of what you're saying here.
No, because Reform is already a protest party. The Tories were a power party. I mean, Reform, the Tories, Powell had already been a cabinet minister. He had a platform. He didn't need to create a platform. Farage, this is the creation of a new platform, and you got to scupper it before it actually manages to establish itself. But these elections have allowed him to establish himself as a platform, a launch pad to take power. So the Rupert Lowe has failed to scupper reform. He's failed.
You're missing my point here. Rupert Lowe is the authentic voice of populism compared to Nigel Farage, because he says the things that we believe in. So therefore, should we not be supporting Rupert Lowe rather than supporting Nigel Farage? At least what he says, rather.
What you got to realise is that when the election results came out, and Labour realised how badly they'd been hit, the Tories realised, there was ferocious anger turned on Farage. They didn't expect that. Now, Farage has evoked this anger from the left. Rupert Lowe doesn't, because they know Rupert Lowe's their ally in stopping Farage. So Rupert Lowe is... if Rupert Lowe forms his own party now, he'll just disappear down the plug hole. He's of no relevance now. He's had his moment and it's gone. The thing with Rupert Lowe is he's not a tactical politician. He doesn't know how to win elections. Farage wins elections with incredible success. It's a unique phenomenon in this country.
You mean to say
I've never seen it.
How to lie like the old gang do?
No, but it's not the question of lying. It's a question of building a constituency. You've got to build a constituency which will vote for you. And Farage knows how to do it. Rupert Lowe hasn't got a clue. But that wasn't his agenda anyway.
I think reform would do much better as with Rupert Lowe as the leader, without a doubt. He's not exactly what I want. He's still a bit soft, but he's a lot more tougher than Nigel Farage. And the masses on Twitter and most other social media platforms wanted Rupert Lowe. So
I see his posts. I can't fault them.
Farage is basically going to destroy the Labour and the Tories, but the difference is going to be is all the Tories are going to go into reform, and we're going to be dominated by a new Tory party, and it's going to be no change from what's a similar thing with what happened.
That Sarah who won Runcorn, weren't she pro EU Tory back in the day, and then all of a sudden her legions have changed. She wants to get an MP position. She's moved into reform. It is all really shady, guys. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I've got about how many? I've got 32 in my YouTube. Make sure you like
big numbers.
Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. And I've got a load on X watching. Please come on. Support us, guys. There's a PayPal link there. Want some money for leaflets? That's what I want. Want some money for leaflets. Now, get donating to us, please, so we can get some leaflets and get them out. That's what we want to do. Leaflets. Lots of elections coming up over the next couple of years. Really exciting time for us. We had a big party meeting last night about some of this stuff. So honestly, really exciting times, and I'm loving it, mate, that all this voting's going on and people are changing. I'm loving that everything's being talked about. Oldham Council has got 16 independent councillors, and we'd never heard of it. Safe Labour seats across Oldham have been took in the past few years, honestly, by independents and other parties. Really, they are on the back foot, and it's nothing to do with reform. Nothing to do with reform. Before this election, Labour have been hammered down to 29 seats in the council, and they're only surviving by sucking up to a couple of independents. And that's before this election to do with reform. So voting's changing, guys. Voting's changing. Things are changing. People want to vote differently. People are more awake to what's going on and stuff like that. I know loads of people are not happy with reform for quite a few of the reasons that Pat and we've all said tonight on here. But people are changing the voting. And I've just told you, proved to you, that even before reform were out, voting had changed in Oldham. 16 independents. a Labour seat won by an independent council just wiped them out, honestly. And so just things are changing, and it's so exciting at times. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. Let me say a few things. So, just to let everyone know, we've got the National Housing Party United Kingdom conference coming up, 23rd of August. It's a Saturday. It's going to be a day's conference with many speakers. Russell White is going to be speaking there from the Populist Party, the leader of the Populist Party. Paul Rimmer will be speaking. I'll be speaking. John will be speaking, and we've got a number of other people lined up. There's going to be great food down there. It's going to be great to meet all the other National Housing Party members, and all the details will be released soon. And there'll be a chance to get merchandise for the party. And it's going to be a great day out. It's going to be at the PTSD camp, the veterans camp, where John is heavily involved with. So you can bring your kids and everything. You can camp down there the night before or the night of the event. So bring a tent if you want to stay the night, or you could just come for the day, come in the morning and leave in the evening. Big numbers watching on YouTube, 30 people odd, which is quite high for us. Got lots watching on X on my account. I was out canvassing today, and as usual, you know, I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to keep knocking on the same doors. I spoke to the people, but when I actually look at the numbers, there's 8,000 voters in my ward. I've only spoken to about 1,500 so far, right? So even if I went out 3 times a week, I wouldn't be able to get to speak to every single person. So anyway, I went down to Covent Garden. I was going to see somebody who said he might be interested in standing for us. And I got diverted. I ended up in this block of flats, and it was incredible. I got 9 different people said to me they're going to be voting for me. Got about 2 or 3 no's, where 2 of those no's, they didn't even ask about policies or anything. They just they just didn't want to speak to anyone. So I just put a no next to them. Got 3 maybe yeses. And the big problem down there at the moment is the drug problem, you know. And I put on my leaflet my idea to solve this drug problem down there. So I was speaking to this lady, this poor woman, young black lady. She said to me, she took her kid to the school the other morning, and there was a woman there having a hit of heroin right outside the school gate at 9 in the morning with a needle hanging out her arm. And she said, I screamed at her and she felt bad. I said, don't feel bad about it. You know, this is very intimidating and horrible for your child to see this sort of stuff. And then she said, yeah, they're all downstairs in the alleyway. And some other people told me that it's all going down in the alleyway beneath this block of flats in Covent Garden. It's in Shorts Gardens, if anyone knows Covent Garden. So she went, come down with me with the rubbish and I'll show you. They're taking over the bin room down there. So I said, all right then. So I said, give us one of your bags. So we went down and we went in there, and straight away we're in the bin room, and outside we can see 2 white geezers smoking crack. And they start, because we was in there, they come up looking in like thinking that we're junkies, so that we'd let them in. And it was really, I was going to take pictures of them, but I didn't want to cause a big scene. I said to her, I was going to do it for evidence, you know. And she said to me that they have to charge up their electricity in this room. So she says in the night time, they can't go down there to top up their electricity because they've got all these junkies in there having a party, banging up and taking crack. And, you know, I said to her what my solution was. The only idea I've got to solve that problem is, you know, is an automatic 4-week prison sentence for people taking drugs on the street. That's the only way it's going to stop it, because they don't care. They know nothing's going to happen to them. And they'll never do it again. If they get caught and sent to prison, they lose their drugs. They're cold turkeying in the prison. Right. So I was thinking about a few weeks ago, I was going to do a petition to try and push this idea. And I think I'm going to do it now, because it was so distressed. They're so distressed. She was so distressed. It was just unbelievable. And she wasn't the only one who told me about it in the blog. A few different people told me this. So I'm going to get a petition going, and and try and maybe hand it to the superintendent of the police or the magistrate. Because let's have it right, guys. Heroin and crack is illegal. If they want to give them a 4-week prison sentence, they could. They can do that. So, but they got to want to do it. So I'm going to try and get a petition going. I think it's going to be popular because it's so bad around there at the moment. She's taking her kid to school and there's a woman banging up in 9 o'clock in the morning outside the school gate. This is Covent Garden, guys. And, nationally, we think it should be decriminalised, drugs, because it's not going to be solved the way it is now. It's getting worse and worse. So, yeah, that's my little canvassing session today. And I was so surprised because I've been to that block about 2 times before, and I'd noticed I hadn't spoke to quite a lot of people in there. And but they all seem to be in today, and I just spoke to them all, and it's so funny. Like the one person I got a flat no, I'm a Labour Party. He was a white geezer. You know what I mean? I had Africans, Muslims. Yeah, we want to vote for you. And then it's the white lefties who just turn their nose up at me. And it's just
you still work in the public sector, Pat. But you see what's happening now, and this is what I want to put to you: the paradigm has been broken. The paradigm is the norms by which politics are being exercised in this country. These elections on Thursday have broken the paradigm. They've allowed new voices to emerge. They're going to allow new issues and new agendas to emerge. Don't forget, Hope Not Hate were targeting reform. They were barracking the meetings. They were using the R word. They were calling them fascists. They were trying to destroy them. They've been made to look ridiculous. The left has lost its fire, it's lost its ability to intimidate, it's lost its presence. And this gives the opportunity for real patriots to come forward. This is why we need now to speak out our agenda, because we're on a tabula rasa now. This is a new beginning in British politics.
The thing about what's happened, right? I don't like reform. It's no secret. I'm not happy about them taking so much power. However, the places where we can win will be in the big cities, because in these places like Kent and Essex, there's going to be no chance for a radical right-wing party to get any ground in these places, because Reform are just going to clean up. Reform will find it much more difficult in like Liverpool, Manchester, London, and I think this is the place to be standing our candidates in the big cities. This is the best place, honestly.
There's going to be a whole wave, Pat. As I say, a new paradigm is a whole wave of change. The media is going to change now. Once the media recognises that Reform is the next government, it's going to allow different voices to speak out. Yeah. Now, it's also money and influence is going to go to those people who are now attacking the establishment. So it's going to empower us. It's going to empower everyone who's on the right or on the nationalist side of politics, because it's going to disempower the establishment, which have had this country by the throat for 60 years, 70 years.
All I would say is to all the smaller parties is just keep going. It's going to be hard, but eventually there is going to be a gap. And I think eventually people will realise that Reform are the establishment, and then people will start turning away from them. That's what I hope is going to happen. That's what my prediction is what's going to happen. But it's going to be difficult. But like I say, the best place to stand at the moment while Reform are so strong is in the big cities.
If people are allowed to express their discontent, if they're allowed to stand up against mass immigration, if they're allowed to say we're sick and tired of paying for this, their voice is being amplified now. Whereas in the past they've been shut down and the left were trampling all over them, the people's voice, the popular voice, can express itself. This is a new beginning in politics. You've got to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, so I've got 9 yeses tonight. I've got 4 new people on the postal vote. And this is what we've got to do, guys. Any other smaller party watching this stream, get out there, knocking on doors, and you'll be surprised how desperate they're. This is why Reform are winning, because people are so desperate for something to change, for a change. And, I was surprised tonight. I've got 4 people on the postal vote. I've got to go to the town hall next week. I've got about 15 postal vote application forms to hand in. This is quite good, like that means like 15 people, like probably definitely going to vote for me. And I've got a year to go. I've got a long way to go. And I'm very confident. I go out twice a week without fail. I make sure I go out. If I don't go out, it's like an addiction for me now. If I don't go out twice a week, I feel really bad. I feel. I've got to make sure I get out. What I did, right? This is what I done. I firstly committed to going out once a week, right? Once a week for 1 hour. This is what I initially said to myself, right? If I want to win this seat, I've got to go out once a week for 1 hour. Then I thought, no, I've got to make it 2 hours just in case I can't get that 1 hour. I'll do 2 hours. Then I thought, well, I might miss that one day, so I'm going to commit to doing it twice a week to make sure I do it once a week at least. And I've ended up doing it twice a week, and it's going very well. And with Jesus Christ leading me, I cannot lose, and that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm going to get an incredible result. I'm not going to say I'm going to win, but I'm going to get an extremely good vote. And
make some
the only way they're going to stop me is by arresting me. That's all I'm going to say about it, and I'll leave it there.
Don't tempt them, Pat. Don't tempt them. Yeah. Russell.
Yes.
I want to Pat's activism. Could you replicate Pat's activism somewhere else?
I don't think I've got the energy. Seriously, though, we need to, as Pat was saying, need to look at the places like the big cities where reform can't get anywhere. But also we've got to look at where the Lib Dem vote is, because I don't believe that every single person who votes Lib Dem is some raving, woke, internationalist, globalist. I think that there's a lot of people who use that as their protest vote. There seems to be some sort of a stigma amongst the middle classes and some people in the rural areas about reform, and it's a kind of a snobbery that they think, oh, well, that's a party for the ordinary folk, the hoi polloi. But actually, I think we can actually eat into the Lib Dem vote as well, because I don't think that is actually as solid as it should be. I think it's a case of they're worried that if they don't vote Lib Dem, they're going to let the Tories back in some of these shires. And I think that we can actually do well in these places if we actually work out what centrism is. Because what I've gone on electoral calculus, they've got 7 different political tribes. And you would think that the centrist tribe was going to be the one that would actually most closely align with the Lib Dems. It isn't. It's the progressivist tribe. The same people who vote for the Labour Party in the inner cities voted for the Liberal Democrats in certain places pre-2024. So we're looking at Bath, we're looking at St Albans and so on. But there's a lot of seats that went to the Liberal Democrats from Conservatives where they're not progressive. They're just people who just don't want to vote Conservative, and they can't face the idea of voting for Labour and possibly not even the Reform Party as the alternative, so they go Liberal Democrat. That doesn't mean they're woke.
What's happened to the Workers' Party? Because they didn't get very good results, and probably because it's a Tory area. What do you think of them?
They lost out to Labour, the Workers' Party. Some of their vote went back to Labour. The thing about the Liberal Democrats is that they benefited from the Labour vote moving towards them. I think 10% of the Labour vote switched to them in this election. But I think we're underestimating the impact of reform and the momentum they've got behind them and the breadth of their support. Because they won in places like Northamptonshire, Nottinghamshire. I mean, they took Doncaster Council off Labour. If you know Doncaster, it's South Yorkshire. It's another heartland Labour constituency. Reform took it off Labour. They now have the council in Doncaster. There's something seismic here that you seem to be missing, that the British people have now found a vehicle that they're going to use to overthrow the Lib Lab Con. Now, where does that leave the smaller parties? The agenda, reform is something, it's in progress. It's not been created. It's only been there since July, really, since Farage took over. They need ideas. They need policies.
This is the whole point, Paul, because they've got no depth to them. This is the whole point. They should have this depth, and people should know what they want and what direction they're going to go. This is the whole problem.
That's right. And also, if you try to suggest anything to reform people, they say that you're working for the other side. They say that you're shills, controlled opposition. They say you're controlled opposition. What you said about Rupert Lowe, that's how they describe anybody who gives them ideas from outside of their own echo chamber.
Well, I know a lot of reform people because I was involved in UKIP for a time. I went from the BNP to UKIP before we were outlawed from UKIP. I was going to be UKIP's candidate in Liverpool for mayor. I stood for UKIP in council elections. I spoke at UKIP meetings. I got to know a lot of UKIPers, and I still know them now who've gone into reform. They're more right-wing than me. They're more populist. They're more nationalist than me. You've got to play a game. In politics, you've got to be careful what you say because you can be assassinated. If you want to be part of the mainstream and you really want to challenge for Parliament, you've got to be careful what you say. We don't live in a free society. We don't live in a society where someone who's radical can actually stand up and proclaim themselves and get elected. You're only allowed to do that if you're on the extreme margin. Reform have got to play a game. At the moment, it's a game of strategy.
They don't have to do that on the continent. The National Rally, AFD, the Sweden Democrats, Danish Democrats, they're all very outspoken and very radical. And we're just lacking behind because of Farage. Simple as that.
And now Farage has won elections in this country. He's won national elections. None of those parties have. The reason he's won it because he knows how to build a constituency. The first base of politics is to build your constituency. Get your voters, get your supporters, get your members. Reform has 250,000 members and it's going up every single day. They've got incredible momentum. You don't seem to recognise that the change politics, this is a nuclear bomb, and you've got to fit into this new paradigm. You've got to find your place within it. There is a place for patriots, but you've got to find a place. It's just us carping and criticising and denouncing reform.
He's been allowed through by the establishment. He's been allowed through. He's on Question Time every single month.
Right. Listen, last couple of minutes, please. Honestly, like and subscribe if you haven't already to our channel. Find our links and just look through our links, please. That's the minimum I can ask for. If you're going to donate, we've got a PayPal link there, and we'd love a donation or two. We want to build up some leaflets. We want to get campaigning. We've got several candidates, like I said, over the next couple of years running in elections across the country. It's been an interesting night tonight, and reform get badged and then they get not badged, but it's fair enough. But I just like the fact that people are voting differently. And even before this election, things had changed in Oldham massively and in the north of Manchester. Even before this election, there's chances of major members of parliament losing the seats in the next general. Honestly, so there's a lot of change coming, and we need to be ready for it. Thank you to Russell for joining us tonight. We'll have to get a bit more of a tighter programme next time. I want to hear more of what Russell has to say. Thank you. Pat's joined us tonight. A bit of an update on his campaign, and it does get you excited. When I were at the count on Thursday in rugby, the excitement was pumping through my veins, honestly. And we've got the mighty Paul Rimmer there, who's joined us tonight. But thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Don't forget, 8 p.m. every Tuesday. God bless you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.